All right, what is up? Welcome back. Next episode of Jays and Confused. Matt, I want to congratulate you on our 1 week podiversary. This is 1 week of doing this podcast. How does it feel?
Feels good. Feels big. Always nice to celebrate these kinds of things. It does feel like I think we should have reached out to the Celtics organization and kind of let them know so that they wouldn't have absolutely broken our hearts like they did tonight.
I do wish we had a better game to celebrate on. We are recording just after the 102 to 100 heartbreaker versus the 76ers. It always hurts a little bit more when it's the Philly team.
It really does bug me more because it's the 76ers.
Yeah, I think it would have bugged me more if Joel had played, but since we kind of got the young, likable Sixers, it didn't sting quite as much, though it did sting.
I mean, I love me some Joel Embiid. I think part of it is tied to never forgetting, and we'll never forget when Joel was asked about the rivalry between the 76ers and the Celtics, and he said, it's not really a rivalry, they always kick our ass. And it just feels like wanting to hold on to that energy of like, growing up with Red Sox, Yankees, and Pedro, like, who's your daddy? Just kind of wanting to, every game we play Philly, I expect to just, like, be their daddy. And so it hurts to, especially one like this where this was a very winnable game. Throughout that fourth quarter, I was like, this is just straight up a 50-50 game, and it does feel like we just kind of dropped it.
I do feel like a fun underlying storyline of this game that we haven't seen in past years of this matchup is this felt like much more of a coaching battle to me, where Nick
Yes.
Nurse and Joe Mazzulla were just, throwing in little young guys' tools. You know, was Edwards on the Sixers who
Justin
made
Edwards.
Justin Edwards. I
Yep.
didn't even know that guy existed. Undrafted last year, he's only played less than 50 NBA games. Just catches fire. And then Joe Mazzulla answering with big Jordan Walsh minutes. Past years, it's really been star driven between these two teams, where it's been Embiid versus Tatum, Brown, James Harden, Ben Simmons. But in this one, we got to see kind of the coaches play a little chess.
Yeah, I thought that was a welcome kind of addition to this game of seeing it turn into like, all right, we're going to rotate matchups. We're going to rotate kind of like who's defending who a little bit more frequently instead of, in past years, like if it had followed that script, it would have just been like Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown going at each other. And it felt like a more complex kind of game with a lot more variables going into it. It's tough to game plan for Justin Edwards just hitting 8 straight shots and 5 of 5 from three
Well,
to
you could
start it
guard
off.
Justin Edwards. That could be the game plan.
I couldn't guard Justin Edwards, but to be fair, tonight neither could the Boston Celtics, so it's
Celtics.
tough to kind of throw shade there. Um, yeah, it's frustrating. These games are the worst where it comes down to like there were so many little things that happened of like VJ Edgecombe late in the fourth quarter gets that three that has that little like not the Kawhi three bounces, but just one big bounce and then
Yeah.
straight through. A few seconds
His
later, Derek
block
White
on
has a
Jalen,
layup.
too.
Yeah,
He caught fire right at the end of the game. I thought the big difference in this was the lack of aggression we had from kind of our big three in the first half, where Jalen
yeah.
Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard, they went 0 for a million from three. And once they got a few misses, they just stopped looking to attack. It was really Anthony Simons in that first half who was the only guy really looking at the basket. And they did come alive in the second half, but once you're down by 12 and kind of almost timing the comeback, we're not a talented enough team to time our comebacks this year. Where in past years we would kind of become a little lackadaisical for a quarter or two and then come back in the third and be up by 10 by the end of the fourth. Now we just don't have the talent to play around like that.
Yeah, and I thought there were just a lot of opportunities that could have gone either way. And I think some of them broke the Celtics' way. That Jalen call in the last, I think, 2 minutes and 10 seconds of the game. Nick Nurse used his challenge on it. A little bit of a push off on Maxi. I thought, frankly, we got away with one there. They did challenge it and they lost the challenge. They decided that Maxi jumped into Jalen's path. But, like, I think that's something that I was looking at and thinking about in the greater kind of grander scheme of this season is like late in games, Jalen has been really, really towing the line on the offensive fouls because we're having a hard time getting him the ball with a little bit of space to work. Um, so that was something I was looking at there. But again, like Derek White had a layup that just went all the way around the rim and rolled out. And just like a lot of those little plays where tonight, like the breaks just didn't go our way.
If
But
Nemise
they were
Keita had
there.
been able to finish that,
Yes. And that was, you could,
let's call it a lob at the end of the game. It was really a missed three. I would have gone crazy.
yes. And it would have been headed to overtime. And I think that was just like clearly a panic, like not knowing exactly how many milliseconds was left on the shot clock. Like he had time to throw that down for a dunk if he wanted, but didn't realize it. Was just like the second I touch this, it has to be out of my hands.
It
Um,
also looked like he didn't have quite as good a grasp on it. Like, it wasn't in his hands, it was on his fingertips.
yeah,
Um, and you can't, like, he didn't have enough time to come all the way down and go back
and go
up.
back up. Yeah, no,
It wasn't
yeah,
a perfectly placed missed three. So it's hard to blame him when so many other things went wrong to lead us to that point. On the bright side, I do think we would have lost this game by 25 if it wasn't for Jordan Walsh,
yes.
which is a sentence I never thought I'd say.
I knew that sentence was coming someday. I just thought it would be coming if
Did
we were
you?
ever decided to talk about the G League. But
Yeah.
no, Jordan Walsh was fantastic in this game. I thought gave Maxi so much trouble. I thought the fact that, again, one of those little coaching decisions, the fact that Maxi, towards the end of the game, we've seen Jalen demand, like, I'm going to guard the other team's best player. And at the end of this game, it was all Jordan Walsh. And Jordan Walsh was really, like, I think the size differential, the wingspan, the length, and just how strong he is. Jordan Walsh did a phenomenal job on Tyrese Maxey. I think part of the reason why the ball ended up in the hands of other guys like the Justin Edwardses, VJ getting a little bit more action towards the end of the game. I think we did a pretty good job defensively on the highest scoring backcourt in the NBA.
That seemed very purposeful, and it was something I noted right off the bat, where the first possession of the game, we had Josh Minott guarding Tyrese Maxey,
Yeah,
and then we moved Peyton Pritchard to guard Trenton Watford. That it seemed like a focus where it was like we're getting a power forward sized guy on Maxey every minute of the game. Josh Minot struggled a little bit to keep up with him, and I think that's why we didn't see him for the rest of the game after that fourth quarter. And it was Jordan Walsh that we matched up his minutes to. With I think there was 6 minutes of Luca Garza, or not Luca Garza, Hugo Gonzalez,
yeah,
where those two were matched up. But it's another thing that I've noticed where we have these in the season kind of mini series where we play Philly 3 times in a 2 week span. The teams kind of get to know each other, and you see a little bit more playoff style adjustments where, they're starting with different coverages, they're altering their rotations to make the matchups work. Where in past seasons, we've seen a lot more in the regular season, you just stay with what your rotation is. But now that the teams are getting to know each other a little more, we see more stuff like that.
yeah. Um, yeah. Prayers up for Hugo Gonzalez. Came out
Yeah.
after twisting both ankles in like a 30-second span, just like absolutely brutal. Didn't see him again after that. He had been providing his typical kind of energy, hustle, hitting some
Hit
shots as
both his
well.
shots. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought also Jordan Walsh finding a couple ways to score in this game. Um, just like seeing like I was excited about and wishing that we had gotten more of those Ugo minutes before he went down, and hope that he's back for our next game, which is I believe tomorrow. Um, Hopefully, it's just a little sprain, and he's able to kind of walk that one off. But yeah, it's
I'm not
interesting
too
that
worried about the injury. It seemed like he both minor sprains. He walked off the court.
yeah,
Even after the first one, he was still sprinting fine. Not too worried about that. I would have liked to see some more Anthony Simons minutes in this game. I know he ended with 17 points. Was it he ended with 26 minutes, which is more than he has been getting, but there were some minutes where neither him nor Jalen were on the court, and
yeah.
I'd really like to see those minutes close up. Because the minutes where they're both on the court, it does seem like he kind of takes a secondary role and he's just that outside shooter like we've talked about. But anytime we can get him on the court where he's the offensive engine, especially against second units, he's been super effective in those minutes.
Yeah, and I think part of that goes to I wasn't just not a great game from Peyton Pritchard tonight. Not really. I mean, Anthony Simons ended up with more assists, more rebounds, and more points. And Pritchard, yeah, five, 3 and 3, I believe he had. Again, poor shooting, just in general. Like we shot 28% from the field in the first half, so like nobody was getting anything to go in the first half. Um, Derek White, I thought, did a good job in that second half of coming back with more confidence, and Jalen getting to his mid range and kind of building that confidence as well. But Peyton Pritchard, we never really saw him kind of find his footing again offensively in that second half. And so I think seeing Simon step up, he had a 10-0 run by himself in that at the start of that fourth quarter. Um, so yeah, definitely like being able to kind of make those adjustments in game and see who's got the hot hand. I think we could have used a little bit more Simons. Um, didn't impress me much defensively in this game, but again, that's not
Yeah.
necessarily what we needed him to do. Just like we needed a little bit more scoring help, and it was, I think, one of the more interesting contrasts in this game was looking at kind of the help that Philly was getting from their bench versus the help we got from ours. Whereas our bench outside of Simons was mostly there for energy, just out there causing chaos, getting rebounds, playing tough defense. Philly was getting scoring at multiple levels from their guys. You saw Quentin Grimes, you saw, again, Justin Edwards. Were able to shoot mid-range shots, three-point shots, shooting at the rim, and just finding multiple ways to score. And it felt like that was a really big difference in this game, whereas our bench, again, provides a ton in terms of creating offensive opportunity and fast breaks and stuff with their defense, isn't necessarily able to execute and create shots for themselves in a way that takes some of the pressure off those starting guys. So when they're struggling, you really start to see that fall through.
I thought we made it a point to try to run some offense through Luka Garza in this game. He
Mm-hmm.
ended with only 9 points, 8 rebounds, but there was a lot of plays, especially once Derek White and Peyton Pritchard were missing those shots. You could see that they were dribbling in not to attack the rim, but to draw the big out, then flip it into Luka Garza. And it was kind of mixed what came out of those plays. He finished a couple, like I said, 9 points, but a lot of them just either wound up as turnovers or wound up, he got blocked a few times. He bumped into Drummond, realized Drummond was stronger than him, and kicked out a few times.
Yeah. The first time
Uh,
I've seen Luka Garza's famous push shot get blocked, and it got blocked pretty emphatically.
the unblockable shot, as no one has called it.
Yeah.
But I thought there was a real difference when you saw Kada out there, where they still weren't passing over to him. I think I retweeted this.
Yeah, it
Um,
was Kata screen, no pass. Kata sets another screen,
Screen
rolls,
was
open, no
open, no
pass.
pass. And on the last play of the game, Drummond runs out. And for the whole 6 second, it was an 8 second shot clock. Kada is fully unguarded under the
Yeah.
rim, nobody within 10 feet of him. And neither Jalen nor Derek White look to even see if he's open there. So it seems like we've made a point to really try to feed Garza down low. But Kada, for some reason, I don't know if he's, dropped too many passes or if we just don't trust his kind of offensive game down there.
Yeah, and speaking of offensive game, I do want to make a note. I did write this down. Kata shot a three with an exclamation point in my notebook, followed by parentheses airball. Um,
Listen, I what I told you was I can tell Cato wants to shoot that shot.
you were talking about he went 6 for 6 in pregame shoot
In
around,
pregame the other night, he did go
and
six for
again
six.
in
He was
that
just
moment
boom, boom.
he was so open. I absolutely don't blame him for taking that shot. I want him to like get some experience in that. Based on the results of how that shot went, I think he will be finding himself with that much
It was a
space at
hockey
the 3 point
assist.
line again. Sure, you can call it
He
whatever
got
you
a
want.
hockey assist off it.
Yeah, so
It
Kata
was a pass to
there.
Derek White, who hit Jordan Walsh for the bucket.
So I
It's
will
called
say
movement offense.
it reminded me of older kind of like Pistons era. Anytime Andre Drummond tried to shoot a three,
Andre
Andre
Drummond
Drummond,
shot
who
a three in
this
this game.
yeah, he listen, and he coming into this game was 4 of 10 from three this season. So like Andre Drummond going into this game, not anymore, but like was a 40% 3 point shooter. He was not that in Detroit. It looked pretty silly, and that was kind of the vibe I got from Kata's shot. Again, people are gonna see that shot and be like, we can leave him with 20 feet of space, and he like go for it. And again,
I think
in
you
certain situations, I'm just like,
overestimate.
go for it.
I think you overestimate the amount of film work opposing teams are doing on Neemias Queta's three-point shot.
I think the
I think
scouting report on Neemias Queta is just you can give him space.
yeah,
As
I
long
think
as it's not in the paint, just that's fine.
this shot will not come up in any team's film room.
We'll see. We'll see if you stand by that by the end of the season. After Queta discovers his 3 point shot.
Oh,
Um,
he's working on it. I know
yeah, it's
that.
coming. We all know
Yeah.
Queta threes are about to start raining down. We're just not there yet, and that's fine. Could have used some threes raining down from literally anybody tonight. You texted me and made the observation. It seemed like our kind of core three guys, our starters, Pritchard, White, and Jalen, all looked afraid of the three ball for that first half,
Yeah.
and some of them going into that second half. Jalen just, it seems like he feels so much more comfortable getting to the mid range at this point that he's almost kind of taken the three out of his repertoire. Derek got some confidence and started shooting it later, and it went well. Pritchard, again, just not really showing it. And at some point, I want to talk about that. And then at some point afterwards, I want to talk about what is going on with Sam Hauser.
He seemed more aggressive on the boards tonight. I think he got 7 rebounds. He looked willing to shoot, which is all I really need from him. Because I do trust that at some point, if Sam Hauser stays aggressive, he'll start hitting threes again. I think he went 1 for 4 from this game, which hasn't been his worst shooting. He was always a guy who would go through these stretches where he's going to go 1 for 4, 2 for 8, and then one game he's going to go 7 for 9 from three. That's always kind of how he's gotten to that 42% is with just 1 or 2 crazy shooting nights. And in the past, it really hasn't mattered too much because we have so much other talent around him that as long as he's not a sieve defensively and people have to guard him, we still usually would win the games where he would shoot 25%, and then he would guarantee us a win the night he went 7 for 9. Now
Yeah,
that it's a little bit different on these teams, we need him to, I mean, it was a 2 point game. So if he hits one more of his threes, then changes the whole dynamic.
I also think like just confidence wise, I think both for his confidence. I mean, he looked when he got the ball, he was ready to shoot. I thought he played solid defense, got some rebounds. It was more, and I pointed this out at some point. I think I texted you. Jalen I think this was probably in the third quarter. Hauser was being left open, and we had talked, I think, in our last episode about like he still creates a sense of gravity. It didn't feel like Philly was giving him any respect in that sense tonight. Like he
Yeah.
was being left wide open, and Jalen was not even looking in his direction. Just going straight to that mid range and just kind of it's tough to kind of figure out how he gets his rhythm back if those are kind of the opportunities where I'm like a couple bounce passes out of kind of the packed paint area from Jalen is kind of how Sam Hauser finds his rhythm, but it doesn't seem like anybody really has a ton of faith in him to like they're a little bit treating him like Jordan Walsh in that sense of like, yeah, if we have to give him the ball to shoot a three.
I also think part of it's just Jalen has not evolved as much as I would like as a playmaker.
Yeah.
That when he gets into the paint, he's looking to score. And I know at the beginning of the game they flashed the graphic up where it showed that so far this season Jalen Brown has had the second highest usage in the NBA, right behind Giannis and then one above SGA. And there was a huge drop off after those three. It's really above 32% is Jalen, Giannis, and Shea. And those other two guys will get 10 plus assists in a game all the time. And it's very rare for Jalen to get over 5 assists.
Yeah.
I know a few games ago, he was talking in the press conference about how they got the league to make that mid range vertical space call a point of emphasis for the refs, where in past years, the he wasn't getting all those calls because the defender had a right to like not move back. But in this year, they sent some videos to the. He was saying they sent some videos to the league, and that anytime he goes straight up and the defender is in his space, he's going to get that call. And that has been unstoppable for him so far this year as just a way to get 2 points. But I can see as soon as he gets into the paint, he's going, okay, so when is this guy in my space? When is he in my space? He is, boom, lift up. But he's not exactly like, his eyes aren't on a swivel to hit other guys. It's really just a one on one game when he gets in there.
Yeah, and I thought that that's something that again, I think the team leader in assists today was Derek White. I think expecting that going forward, but if Pritchard's not playmaking necessarily, and Anthony Simons had some, but it's just tough if your star player who has the ball in his hands the most isn't kind of making those reads. It's tough on a team that again doesn't have a ton of shot creators to figure out how we're going to create offense.
You can
Um,
also ice guys out, you know? Like if they're
yeah,
not touching the ball as much as they're used to, and we're not playing as much of a motion offense, um, where that's one thing Tatum got leaps and bounds
yes,
better at as he went through his career was he started as just kind of a one-on-one guy playing off of Kyrie, Gordon Hayward. And then as he kind of became that closer, he learned to, look for other guys and be able to make more and more creative passes. Where
yeah, to the point
Jalen,
where he's one of those guys that he gets 8 to 10 assists and nobody's
yeah,
batting an eye. And if Jalen does it, it's like that's Jalen's best passing night, maybe of the year.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Which Jalen is who Jalen is. Like I would love it if he could start getting, 7 assists a game, but it's probably going to have to be Peyton Pritchard and Derek White who kind of step up into more of a playmaking role. Um, it's just tough because Jalen's been so effective in the mid range. I don't know if I want to take the ball out of his hand.
Yeah. Yeah, and that again, that just goes to like how do we get guys in? Like really, I saw Justin Edwards go off the way he did tonight, and I was like, that should be Sam Hauser's game. Like we should have had one of those by now, and we just haven't seen it. And it feels like again in a game as close as this one was, just finding some ways to get our bench guys a little bit more rhythm would have been really helpful. It does kind of feel like, and again Ugo hit his shots. Jordan hit his shots. Luka Garza had some good stuff, and Anthony Simons can create for himself. It is really just Anthony Simons again got some assists in this game. I just am still really not a fan of his passing.
No,
A
he's a
cup,
scorer over a passer. And that's
yeah,
part of the reason him and Jalen never look great together on the floor, is because is like
one of them
Anthony always
immediately.
defers to Jalen. Jalen gets into the mid range, and then Anthony's just kind of sitting in the corner. Which if we're just gonna use him as a corner shooter, then he's not bringing much to the table. I know he hit one corner three when it was swung around to him. He can definitely hit those, but given some of his lacking attributes on the defensive end, I would rather have, one of our kind of energy wings in there.
Yeah, and yeah, just rotation wise, I thought there were a couple too many minutes without any of our energy wings. Again, I'm surprised by my not being sat. I mean, he got the three fouls pretty early. So not seeing him again in that first half was unsurprising, but then not seeing him at all in the second half, I thought was especially once Ugo went out.
We
There
just
were stretches.
stretched Jordan Walsh's minutes for the whole thing. I mean, there was a little stretch in the third quarter where we were playing like Peyton, Derek White, Jalen Brown, Sam Hauser, and Luka Garza, which I know I texted you like we can't have a stretch where we have just no energy on the court. I
Yeah,
turned out to be a little bit wrong because that's when we went on a big run. I think the spacing really helped Jalen just play one on one and shoot us back into it. But it just seemed like we were willing to play Jordan Walsh all the minutes in the world.
yeah. Which again, if he's playing the way he did in this game, I'm totally fine with that. I think we're seeing kind of what we had talked about and hoped for going into this season of we're running rotations and kind of playing with lineups in a way that is allowing guys to emerge. Um, I'm just wondering kind of at this point, and again, 12 games into the season, um, how much we are kind of how fragile that is in a sense in terms of is is it going to be kind of a how are you doing tonight kind of a situation of like Josh Minot doesn't have it tonight, so he's getting 8 minutes and then he's done. Jordan Walsh got I don't know 29
I
minutes
think
tonight. If he's struggling
between
early next game, are we pulling him quicker? And just seeing kind of how much consistency in terms of minutes guys are going to get and what we can kind of expect there.
I think between those really four bench wings, Hauser, Minot, Walsh, and Gonzalez, it's going to be how are you doing tonight? And then go from there. And we're really going to have two and a half spots for those guys, where tonight we really leaned on Jordan Walsh, Sam Hauser after Hugo went down. Tomorrow night it might be Minot and Walsh. All those guys are going to get a chance, and then he's going to kind of ride whoever is creating plays.
Do you think that as almost as a natural, just kind of play style element of it, that Hauser is going to be the one who suffers the most from that in terms of at this point, I think he's steady defensively. I think he's going to go get some rebounds every game, but I think he's the one of those guys. Every like Ugo, Walsh, and Minot, I think are just more like scrappy are going to find more ways to impact the game, whereas
Yeah.
Sam is just more steady, but I think needs a little bit more predictability to get rhythm in his shooting game, which right now is just like what he's missing the most. Like he just clearly has not found an offensive rhythm just yet. And so wondering kind of if his minutes are going to be kind of up and down and situational, do we expect him to be able to find his footing kind of in the near, hopefully in the near future?
Yeah, I think I still expect him to find his shot any day now. And I do think that his spacing is a factor in these games. Like, our best five-man lineup is still the starters with him in the Josh Minot spot. And there's a little bit of bias there just because when Josh Minot starts, so that 5-man lineup is going up against starters all the time. Where
Yeah.
when you have Sam Hauser and it's probably going up against a somewhat bench lineup. Um, he's kind of been part of some of our best lineups this year and some of our worst lineups if you look through the lineup data. So I think that it's still going to be situational when Joe puts him out there, but it's going to be when teams are packing the paint on us. Like we did go on that run with him and Garza as the bigs tonight, just because the defense was so spread out that Jaylen Brown could get into the paint and the big wouldn't come out to help.
Yeah.
So having that reputation, he is still known as one of the better 3-point shooters in the league, even if he has been struggling for the start of the season.
Yeah. What do you think? Is there, are we just slumping right now? I mean, again, shooting 28% in the first half. It didn't feel like Philly was playing smothering defense necessarily. It
No.
just felt like everybody, I think you talked about it, like they're just, it seemed like they were psyched out. Seemed like almost like a mental thing of just shots were not falling and nobody looked like they wanted any part of.
I think this team's not used to playing without a security blanket. Where in the past, if Derek White went 0 for 4, he would just go, "Oh, it's not my night," pass it to Tatum, and it would be fine. And then maybe he would get a wide open one the next quarter. But they really don't seem like they're used to pushing the way they're going to have to when they're kind of the guys now.
Yeah.
And that seems true for Peyton Pritchard and Jaylen Brown as well, where once you have a couple that don't go down, there isn't really an option other than to just keep shooting with the current team we have.
Yeah.
Like I saw plays where Derek White would have the ball at the top of the key and just kind of pass to Jordan Walsh. And love what Jordan Walsh is doing, but he's not going to create the offense for us. It's kind of your job now, you know?
Yeah. Not yet, at least.
One day. Um, what does Derek White have against Colorado? Did you listen to the intros tonight?
I did not.
So Philly did a thing tonight where they let each player on the Celtics like announce themselves or like record a thing of what school they went to.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jaylen Brown said Jaylen Brown, Cal Berkeley,
Yeah.
and they said their name and their school. Derek White said the Legend High School, where he went well. One, he did the Ohio State thing,
Yeah,
and two,
yeah.
he said his high school and not his college.
I do wonder what's going on there. um, as far as I know, there have not been previous instances of Derek White trashing his college, but who's to say?
I mean, he
I
did
don't
go to
know.
2 colleges. Like he played D2 at like Eastern Colorado State or something like that, and then he went to Colorado University for
Yeah.
a year before he got drafted. So I don't know if it's that he went to two and he just decided to do his high school. Maybe he thought that doing the thing was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he just had a better time in high school and was kind of going for a nostalgia vibe. I have no
I
clue. I
think
think
they
that's an
should let the players pick more because I do think it's interesting. Like, who do you identify as an alumni of?
Yeah. I mean, I there aren't too many guys who have played for multiple kind of college teams, but I do think it would be interesting to kind of hear which ones those guys would kind of consider themselves from.
Yeah. You got anything else on the game? Just want to move on from this one. Was it
Yeah.
harder for you since Tsunami Poppy was the guy who hit the dagger on us?
No, I think I stopped once he was on his like third or fourth team. I kind of stopped hating him as much. Never forgave him. I guess and now have forgiven him, but there was a while where I just hated Kelly Oubre from that Wizards series with like John Wall and Bradley
Ah,
Beal, and I think he just like got into it with Kelly Olynyk at some point, um, and really, really did not like Kelly Oubre for years after that. In this one, I just keep going back to like, shit, we should have boxed out on Kelly Oubre. Um, and again, I think there were some instances we beat Philly on the boards, which again they didn't have Joel Embiid, but
Andre
um,
Drummond and Bona seemed like good rebounding centers.
yeah, and Drummond I think had a good game.
Yeah.
Obviously, kind of locking up Derek White and causing him to fumble at the end of the game, but I thought we did a decent job on the boards. Just wishing for a little bit more kind of communication on, and we've talked about it before, just kind of like team rebounding, like box outs. It feels like this team is kind of struggling. And then I know I texted you at some point earlier during the game. There was a missed free throw, and we had two guys kind of in position for it, and we ended up the Philly got an offensive rebound because just nobody jumped for it, and they just kind of feels like there's something to our rebounding of just I'm gonna stick a hand up or maybe two hands up, and it's not, um, yeah, just not necessarily like fundamental. Not getting two hands on the ball and jumping and kind of boxing out and helping each other out as team rebounders that I would love to see more of.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to be a dominant rebounding team with this core. I don't think we're ever going to win games just based on our rebounding, but if we can make it so that rebounding isn't the reason we lose, I'm going to be happy. So next up, I want to do an around the league check-in. We've been
Yes.
pretty focused on the Celtics so far in this podcast, and I see us getting down a little bit on the Celtics, but I think sometimes looking at the drama around the league, we can focus on the bright side. You know, our coach is not getting fired this season. Nobody's
Mm-hmm.
asking for a trade this season. We are a functional franchise with hope for the future. So the big news of today was that Nico Harrison, the GM of the Dallas Mavericks, was let go,
Yep.
seemingly as a direct result of the Luka Doncic trade
I
and
thought you were gonna say as a
how
direct
bad
result
they've
of
been this
you
season.
predicting that in our last episode.
I did, well, I think a lot of people could have predicted it, but it was funny how quickly it went from me predicting it to it happening. Um, I did lay out a trade in our last episode that I said could only happen in the wake of a Nico Harrison firing. And I do think this is kind of an opportunity for the Celtics, but also other teams around the league, that whoever takes over the Dallas Mavericks is going to have a choice in front of them, whether or not they want to rebuild around Cooper Flag or try to win with this kind of Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson core.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
The old broken
Even
down guy squad.
the old broken down guy squad. I mean, that's the Clippers, but they're the
Yeah.
old broken down guy second team.
Yep.
Either way, I think this roster as constructed doesn't really make sense. They have way too many centers and power forwards and almost nobody to dribble the ball.
Well, that's because they're
And
making Cooper Flag into a point guard.
see, that's just a bad idea, is the problem. And it also
You know
seems to be,
that, and I know that.
why is this Jason Kidd's solution to every coaching problem is to just have a tall guy learn to be point guard? Because this is also what got him fired in Milwaukee when he tried to make Giannis just a full-time point guard. Is it because he was a tall point guard?
Yeah, I
Is
think
it
it's you
just
coach
like
what you know, and I don't know that like how far out of his comfort zone he's willing to go there.
it's also like my strategy in 2K is just to have my best player at point guard.
Yeah. Yeah, he's playing 2K basketball, and that's fine until it's not because you have a power forward who clearly should kind of be down on the block and can't dribble that well or play make. And That's a lesson that they can learn on their own time. But for now, I'm happy to look into their little goodie bag of assets and figure out what they're going to do next now that Nico is gone.
Yeah, I'm gonna say two bright sides for us.
Yep.
One, they have a lot of big men, and it looks like it might be a garage sale come time for the trade deadline. So, definite. If I was Brad Stevens, I would definitely be making phone calls there to see, who they're attached to and who they're not,
Yep.
because somebody from that center rotation probably isn't going to stay on that team all year. The second upside, and this is probably a few years out, is who Cooper Flagg's favorite team growing up was?
Um, FC Madrid.
No, he was a Celtics fan.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right. I'm down. So here's the thing is the favorite team bit has always kind of come back to bite me.
Is
Just
this
because
because I kept talking about how we were also Ben Simmons' favorite team growing up?
no, it was Nerlens Noel being a Boston kid.
I
And then
think he'd
all
sign
those
with us right now.
I think he would too. I don't think we need him right now necessarily. But I remember there were years where like our center, like Al Horford left and our center rotation looked a little shaky. And I was like, well, Nerlens Noel loves Boston. And so a little bit of just kind of PTSD from holding on to that hope. But
Matt, how many potheads from central Massachusetts make the NBA?
more than I think I would expect off the top of my head.
Yeah, we don't need to do a list. Maybe,
That'll be a
but
segment someday, yeah.
someday we'll do the all Massachusetts NBA players that got caught with marijuana.
Yeah, it might be a quick segment, but it'll be a great segment.
It'll be a great segment. But Nerlens, he's one of ours,
Yeah.
We gotta support him. We gotta support the ones that get out.
Yeah. Yeah, he's living our dream. But yeah, no, I think that's an interesting. I wanted to bring this up just kind of as a sneak into this around the league thing, just because I just saw this. The Kings are also reportedly considering just a fire sale and wanted to see the money is weird and it would probably have to be like a three-teamer or like a lot of
You want
assets, but
you want us to go after Drew Eubanks?
I've always been no. I'm a Sabonis guy, and I wanted to see your thoughts on that as well, just as like bigs who might suddenly be available.
I like Sabonis a lot. I remember that was a fake trade I kept making this offseason before we moved Drew and Kristaps.
Yeah,
But right now we just don't. I don't see us having the matching salaries to get him on the team without, including a Derek White.
yeah. I think it would have to be like it's Simon's contract, and then like Hauser and Pritchard, or like that's where I was like a three-team deal where we would have to be sending like a bunch of minimums to another team, and
So
yeah.
those three get us to 43. I think he makes 56.
Oh yeah, I've been penciling Bayless Shireman into every trade to make money work.
Yeah, but still, once you get to be a 6 for 1, and we're
Yeah, that's where it
not
would kind of
gaining.
have to be multi teams, but yeah, no, but I do like Dallas having. I mean, I do think first of all, I don't think anyone in the world outside of maybe Nico Harrison is surprised by this news. Maybe surprised by how quickly it happened. But
Did you
we
see
can
the
say
clips of the owner talking to the kid in the Lakers jersey?
no.
So, Scott Dumont, the
I think it's
new
Patrick
Maverick,
Dumont,
Patrick
maybe.
Dumont, that's what
Yeah.
his name is. The Mavericks' new owner came to his first game since opening day.
Yep.
Because he seems like he's just like a kind of hands-off owner, which isn't the worst thing in sports if you want to defend the guy. Um,
Until you
listen,
being hands
I
off means
said
Luka Doncic gets traded.
traded. Yeah. No, you should at least look that one over.
Yeah.
But he came to opening day, got booed, and then he came to the game last night and sat courtside, presumably to break the news to Nico that they were going to announce it this morning. but they
Yeah.
sat him next to an 18-year-old fan who was in a Luka Doncic Lakers jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And reportedly, the fan apologized for flipping him off at opening day. And it seemed like they had a nice conversation based on the clips.
Yeah, I don't need an apology to be issued there. I think that fan did the responsible thing. And I think if that fan might have set off like a butterfly chain of events of like Nico might not get fired if that kid doesn't flip off the owner opening day. So, you
Maybe
know,
he talked him into it. Maybe Patrick
that's what
Dumont
I'm
was just
saying.
coming to the game.
He was just at the game and then this enterprising young man really turned him around on it. No, I mean, is the Luca trade the worst trade of all time?
I mean, you would have to go back pretty far. I mean,
Yeah.
didn't we got Bill Russell for like the rights to an ice dancing show?
That's a good trade for
That
everybody
was
involved. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
that was pretty bad. There was a few terrible ones back in like the 50s and 60s like that, where I think Dr. J got traded for just money one time. Um, I mean the trade back was really in modern sports history.
Yeah,
It's the worst
it's
trade.
one of those that like I remember where I was when Luka Doncic got traded because of how unbelievable it was. So it is seeing Nico go again. Nobody's surprised. It does feel like a good kind of karmic comeuppance for a kind of crazy like his tenure was like I'm gonna trade our franchise superstar like all-time player and then call him fat a bunch of times on the way out the door.
So his career and Rob Pelinka's have always been tied together. You know, they were kind of Kobe's like manager and agent for a while. And it definitely seems like they're friends, and that's what led to that deal. And I've seen it rumored a few times on Twitter that Nico Harrison could take a job with the Lakers. But can you imagine running into Luca in the locker room if you're Nico Harrison now on the Lakers?
Yeah, I feel like it's gotta be
That's
you've
gotta
gotta just like fully dissociate and pretend like you did him the favor of like, hey, like isn't the weather here so not like we got beaches and everything? Like I really did you a favor getting you here. I do think if they run into each other in the locker room, like if Luca's feeling if he's having a bad day, like Nico Harrison ends up on the deck and the Lakers organization absolutely covers it up.
if I was Nico Harrison, I would take a job with the Lakers and then just like keep complimenting Luca's weight.
Yeah,
Just be like,
skinny
dude, you're
Luca.
looking great.
He's like, listen, I knew
Love
that
the
the trade
abs,
would
bro.
motivate him. Yeah. No, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Dallas, I'm curious to see what Dallas does moving forward and who they ship off. And I think Kyrie is scheduled to come back in like January. I don't really know what's going on with Anthony Davis, but
Honestly, I think Mavericks is kind of a dream GM role right now because you have Cooper Flag, you have Derek Lively, you have your own pick this year, and they're not winning games, so you're gonna just luck into an amazing young core. You have a ton of veterans with value around the league, but also there is no expectation of you. Like, if you
yeah,
jump into the Dallas Mavericks GM role, as long as you don't do worse than trading Luka Doncic,
which you
I feel
can't
like they're gonna
do.
love you. Unless you
Yeah.
get, unless you get a Luka Doncic again and trade him. Like it's hard to do worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next situation I wanted to check on your thoughts on is what's going on with John Morant. He says he's lost his joy. And as a Celtics fan, I can't imagine like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown if we went through a tough stretch coming out and saying they've lost their joy. And it's like the team's responsibility to get their joy back.
Yeah, I think there is it is curious to see because like looking back 2 or 3 years ago it would have been almost impossible to see this coming, um just in terms of like Taylor Jenkins taking over that Grizzlies team and doing the job he did, and they kind of exploded out of the West out of nowhere, and Ja was going to be like the next face of the
He was
league.
22
Um,
years old on an All NBA first team.
yeah, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
Has had one of the sharpest turnarounds. It is like I was trying to think earlier today of kind of comparisons of in terms of like falls from grace and like maybe Allen Iverson, but like Allen and again in terms of like play
Stephon
declining as
Marbury.
well. Stephon Marbury's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
A
it's
lot of guards will hit like a really young peak and then kind of fall off like this. I mean, hopefully Ja can get it back. But it is something we've seen before. Gilbert Arenas was another one where
I
he
was thinking
made
about that
two
as
All
well.
NBA teams, seemed like he was going to be the best guard in the league for a generation, fell off. Derrick Rose, who was really injury related,
Yeah.
but Ja had a ton of Derrick Rose comps.
Yes,
Um,
in terms of play style and everything. And Ja does, to be fair, he's had some injury stuff pop up. Like as soon as he got to that peak, it seemed like the injuries really started dogging him. I think it does just kind of it's odd to see in terms of a culture perspective. Um, a franchise that kind of felt like they were making all the right decisions, loving their draft. They had like their young core of like Morant, Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr. They had Brandon Clark when he was healthy.
they
Um,
still got Brandon Clark.
yeah, it was a different kind of Brandon Clark though.
Now, I
Um,
do have a trade suggestion for this one.
okay,
Now, I listened to a few Celtics podcasts that threw out John Morant trades,
yeah,
and that's going to be a flat no from me. I heard one
I'm good.
person even talk about a Jalen for Ja swap, and I will throw my body in front of that trade.
Yeah,
But I was watching the a highlight package of the sort of cultural shift in Memphis because
hmm
they used to be the team that all did media availability together.
yeah,
OKC kind of stole that, where it used to be when Ja Morant had the interview at the end of the game, all his friends came with him. And
yeah,
he would always have his arms wrapped around two guys. And under one arm, he would have Desmond Bain, who they let go for a lot of picks.
yep.
And under the other arm, he would have Xavier Tillman. So I'm saying if they want to get Ja Morant's joy back,
What are you giving
what are they
us for
willing to
Xavier Tillman?
give up for Xavier Tillman? Because I will take very little for Xavier Tillman right now. And if
hmm
he brings Ja Morant joy, that could work out for everybody.
Deal. I don't even know what they're offering, but I'll do it. I'll do it right
If they have a
now.
roster spot, we'll probably just send them Xavier Tillman to get under the first apron.
Yeah, I want an IOU for it, or like we'll take a pick or something. Like we have all the leverage because from what
I
I
don't know if we
understand,
have all the leverage,
no,
but
no, no, we have all the leverage. Here's the thing, to all the Celtics fans listening, we're not getting Ja Morant. The primary reason is Massachusetts has the strictest gun laws in the country, so he wouldn't
that's
be
gonna
on the
be
team
tough.
for
Yeah.
very long. Yeah, he'd be in a penitentiary pretty quick. But, um, yeah, I think, I mean, it's tough to see how quickly his stock has fallen. And it's also like he got Taylor Jenkins fired, and Taylor Jenkins was a great coach. Um, and then the coach that replaced him, like having issues 10 games into a season on this level, um, it's just tough to kind of see how this gets figured out. And I don't know, it
And
doesn't
also,
feel like,
yeah, he was struggling at first with sort of the like Eurobasket style they were playing. They went back to running pick and roll. He was still struggling. And that's kind of when they suspended him for a game. We're not entirely sure what was said. And he had the press conference where he said, just ask the coach over and over again. Um, so yeah, not a super good look. Really glad we're not going through that right now. I mean, to be a Memphis or a Mavs fan the last few years, you must have gotten your hopes so high just to kind of crash and burn. And that is one thing. the Celtics front office hasn't done to us. So I am appreciative of that.
I do think it's interesting in this year, which everyone acknowledges is not it's a down year for us. Again, I don't see it as a lost year or a lost cause year or a tank year or anything like that. But the Celtics organization in the past decade has done a remarkable job of consistency, of keeping us in games, of keeping fans engaged, giving us reasons to root for this team. I think it's more of a trend in the NBA, it feels like recently, of teams just reaching these dynamite highs and then falling apart almost immediately. Um, that is really interesting just to like keep an eye on. I remember when Denver won that finals, it was like nobody is gonna be able to beat Denver. Like Denver was unbelievable, and since then they haven't made it back, and just kind of the cycle that we're seeing in the NBA of like you can't stay on top for very long. Um, Curious to see how OKC navigates that with all of their young guys, and how they navigate that tax when it comes a knocking on their door, but yeah, just a very like up and down roller coaster league. And hopefully Ja figures it out somewhere. I think like a Miami or something, um, which does have like the nightlife to potentially distract him, but also feels like they have an organizational kind of philosophy of like not putting up with bullshit, which he frankly seems like he needs around him right now.
Yeah, I think the second apron has had a lot to do with it, where teams can't just keep adding forever. At some point, they need to break those cores apart. I think part of it's also when you have just a purely young core. I think OKC is a exception to the rule, even though they do have some great vets on that team, like Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. That a lot of these teams we see where all the guys get drafted within the same 3 or 4 drafts and kind of get good together, those tend to flame out both because they all need to get paid around the same time, but also because without sort of a veteran presence in the locker room, you tend to see kind of a little bit more splintering. Where, like, if you think about when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum started out, they had those, like, Isaiah Thomas teams, then they had the Kyrie, Gordon Hayward teams, they had Al Horford the whole time. Kemba Walker was really good for a season and a half. That they kind of always had like a veteran backbone to the team as they were getting good. And if you just bring in an 18-year-old out of college and say, here are the keys to the franchise, they tend to have some high highs and some low lows. And that doesn't always make for the best long term team building.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's going to be an interesting situation to keep their eyes on what Memphis does, even whether or not they hold on to Ja, whether or not they move him. They've got all of those picks from the Desmond Bain trade, which was just so
That's
many picks. You can't really say no to that trade. But yeah, trying to figure out how their organization navigates this, I think will be really interesting in how they kind of manage their assets. If
that's
Jaren
another
Jackson Jr.
team.
ever hits the market, I'll put my body in
It's
front
an
of whatever to get that going.
That's another team, if I was Brad, I would call just to see how they value their depth of big man, because we're not going to put a ton of assets on the table for a John Morant trade. But, if they're shopping a Santi Aldama or a Brandon Clark or just one of these like rotational level pieces that we might be able to get on the cheap, it's another team to keep your eyes on around the deadline.
Yeah, and for our listeners at home, Jeremy will know this. Brandon Clark, one of the very first players during an NBA draft where the Celtics passed on him, and I threw my shoe.
Yeah, one of a long list
Yeah,
of
some of them I was really right about, and some of them not. But Brandon Clark was one of the first where I was incensed that we passed on him.
We got Grant Williams with that pick, right?
I don't remember
I
that
believe it
draft.
was Grant Williams that we got. We took over Brandon Clark, which, looking back, that's kind of an even trade, you know?
Yeah,
Like they've
yeah.
both just kind of been rotation level power forwards.
This team could
Last
use Grant Williams. I was thinking about that recently. We were kind of talking about Anthony Simons trades, and I was like packaging, be like Josh Green and Grant Williams. would kind of make the money
Oh yeah.
work, but
I
you
mean,
know.
I'd take that. I don't know if the Hornets would, just because they have so much kind of chaotic shooting and wing and guard play right now that I don't know if they need Anthony Simons in the mix.
I mean, Charlotte's in perpetual hell. I'm just kind of let's throw something new in there.
You're not a fan of Con Kneppel? Going to turn the whole thing around.
I'll believe it when I see it. Until then, I believe the Charlotte Hornets will continue to Charlotte Hornet.
Last piece of news from around the league, we got a new All-Star format. So it's going to be
Yes.
three teams, two American, one European. I don't love that we're incorporating another group stage element into the NBA season because they're
Yeah.
hard enough to follow to begin with. But I do kind of like the idea of having 8-man rosters playing 12-minute quarters. Um, just because it tends to give guys a little bit more to play for if you're actually starting for your team. A lot of times in the All Star game, I feel like a lot of guys get buried on the bench, and then it's, Steph Curry and LeBron trading threes for half the game.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point and something that I think I don't love the three squad kind of thing. The one thing I do like a lot more about the format is, well, I like and I don't. I think they're moving to positionless, which I think will really alter the way that all stars are selected. I also the world team, like eight US,
The
eight
world
US,
team
eight
is
world
going to
team.
kill us.
Yeah, it's going to
It's going to
be
be embarrassing.
absolute domination, which is fine. I'm fine with that. I think the US could use some humility in the basketball arena in general. But
I mean, what's the
I
world team's starting five going to be? It's going to be SGA, Luca, Giannis, Jokic. Um, they're a little weak on the wing, maybe.
um yeah, I was gonna
Wiggins is having a
say.
good year.
Yeah, I don't think Wiggins is that. Is Wiggins an all-star this year?
In the or it's not going by conference, is it? Because I was going to say he could sneak into the East this year, especially since Miami's playing well, and he kind of seems like their best player to start the year. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
yeah.
like world bigs. I feel I'm sure we're missing somebody.
They got plenty of bigs. I mean, if they're going
Yeah, it
just
was like
positionless by the
Shengun, like
vote, it could be. Um, what does Sabonis count as?
I
He was
could
born
see
in
him as a
Portland.
I think he's one of those guys maybe who gets to I think he plays for
He
uh
plays for a foreign team internationally, but was
yeah.
born in Portland, Oregon.
That's tough.
And his dad played for the Trailblazers. It also feels weird to start to question guys' nationalities. Like
Yeah.
this has to be a conversation the NBA has like behind closed doors.
Yeah. It's a weird format, I think, just in general. I also like what if there's only like the number like we're gonna presumably select more. Like, what if there are 10 international guys who make the All Star team and only 8 spots on the world team? Um, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, two of you have to play for the US now. And I think that
Or
also
do they
leads
just
to some.
not get in?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm like, it's a weird thing to arbitrarily be like, there are 8 spots for international guys, period. Um, I think
Oh,
that's
it's
a little
probably gonna be
interesting.
Josh Giddey at the three.
Is he Canadian?
No, he's Australian.
Josh Giddey is Australian.
Australian.
Yeah, forgot about that. Um,
Or Franz
yeah,
Wagner. That's gonna be another.
that's
He's
fair.
not playing quite well enough. But yeah, I think they're
Yeah,
just going to kill the United States team unless they kind of don't care. Because Jokic has never really cared that much about All
Jokic
Star
is one of the
games.
most passionate basketball players I've ever seen. um, it depends on what they throw in for incentives. I think if they did personalized incentives, the All Star game would get more fun. Of like Jokic gets a horse if they win the All Star
Oh,
game. Like let's start doing some crazy stuff. Because you can
So
be like, you get $1 million if your team wins, and like everybody's like, cool. If they're all stars, most of them are making tens of millions of dollars. But like Jokic would play harder for a new horse.
well,
This I believe.
here's the problem with that, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
get all the prizes beforehand.
Hmm.
So if they're like, this is the final
They're stuck
game.
with yeah, the
It's
NBA is
going
stuck with
up.
a horse.
It's Team LeBron versus Team Jokic, and then just like on the victory panel, it's like a Lamborghini, a horse, depending on who wins. I think if LeBron wins, you got to kill the horse. I think
Yeah,
that would make him play harder. If if you let
yeah.
him briefly meet the horse,
Yeah, yeah, let Jokic form an emotional attachment. I don't think there's any way the US wins that game anymore.
we're
For
gonna see some
LeBron, I feel like it's
elbows get thrown.
yeah, LeBron, you show him like the nicest bottle of wine or
Yeah,
like a Space Jam 2 script or something.
but you gotta smash the bottle. Like you gotta destroy the prize. They don't win in front of them.
It's on one of those like
Or
water
maybe
things. That's part of the skills contest. They put it in a dunk tank. And then you have to like pass the ball through, and whoever loses, it falls through the dunk tank. Um,
why are we not in charge of the All-Star game?
because I think we might have just proposed like drowning a horse on TV.
Or the
Um,
horse falls through.
yeah, the horse or the Lamborghini.
I was imagining like the other team is just like on the dunk tank
I'd watch
for the
that
skills
too, and I
competition.
do think the NBA would be more likely to greenlight
That's more
that.
likely. I think it would be fun if the team that wins gets to destroy the other team's prize. Like Jokic gets to like smash all of LeBron's wine bottles in celebration, or LeBron gets to kill a horse. That would be that.
That mental image is really throwing me. I think that also you get to a point where it becomes like your audience is watching a bunch of millionaires destroy really expensive prizes, and I think that's a little alienating. Um,
You could, yeah. I mean, the whole thing is just kind of burning money in a way. We're just doing it a
yeah.
little bit more directly. Um, all right, we have gotten to the point in the episode where we're discussing LeBron kill horses. We will do a let's fix the All-Star game bit at
Yes.
some point, just
Yeah.
because I feel like we were almost there.
We were
Um,
close.
we were real close. We'll get there eventually. But that's been it for this episode. If Jason confused, thanks for listening, and see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.